if folks with money really wanted to, they could really control the cryptocurrency market and make it really crazy. What's going on? I'm Marcus. You're at the channel of the Debt Free Dad, where we're following my family's journey to financial freedom, and we're talking and learning about finances through my experiences, trials and errors, and more importantly, my mistakes. Today's video, we are going to talk about cryptocurrency. It's cryptocurrency 101. We're going to talk about the basics. All last year, I started this crypto portfolio. I dove my foot in. I had an old school way of thinking. I was like, I don't know about this cryptocurrency, but of course, like I always say, I had to do my own independent research. And once I said, okay, I figured out what it was, I started to invest because I was more informed and more knowledgeable about what cryptocurrencies are and what they do. Now I'm actually sitting here and thinking about it. And I thought, you know what? I never actually did a video explaining what cryptocurrency is. Everybody shows their portfolio, but I'm going to break down some of the nuances of what cryptocurrency is so you can have a good understanding. I'm gonna keep this video short, so it'll probably be 2 or 3 parts somewhere as it explains things, but hopefully it gives you some clarity so you'll feel more comfortable and more knowledgeable about the cryptocurrency market. As always, got to give a disclaimer. Hey, I'm an attorney. I'm a licensed attorney. I'm not your attorney. This isn't legal advice. This isn't financial advice. This is for information and educational purposes only. And I'm only letting y'all know what's going on in the household of the debt free dad. Okay, as always, we're going to start out with a few definitions and I'm going to put some nice visuals on the screen. So hopefully it could give some granularity because I need, when I learn things, I got to read it, I got to hear it, but I also got to see it. So the visuals help me. So hopefully it provides some substance. First things first, what is a cryptocurrency? A cryptocurrency is essentially a digital or virtual asset or virtual digital type of currency that has some value. Now, that's a general definition. What makes cryptocurrency unique, and we'll talk about this in detail a little bit later on, is that it's decentralized. Essentially, what decentralized means is that it's not owned or controlled by one person. Let's think about it. If you go to Wells Fargo, you bank with Wells Fargo, or Navy Federal, or USAA, or any of them big Bank of America, any of them financial institutions out there, let's think of about who keeps a hold, who maintains the ledgers for those banks. The financial institution maintains the ledgers. Those are the ones you would never know about all the transactions and deals that that bank enters into. You'll know about the transactions that you enter into with that bank, but the bank controls the ledgers, so it's centralized. Only the bank has that information. The federal government can request and get that information by certain federal laws and disclosures. So that's the whole nuance with cryptocurrency. It's not controlled by a centralized entity, either government or a banking institution. It's decentralized. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about blockchain. What is blockchain? What is blockchain technology? Essentially, blockchain is, let's just think of it as like I talked about the ledger that the banks control, that the government controls to track all the transactions. Let's think of blockchain as a digital ledger, so to speak. So it's a digital ledger that stores transactions and provides safeties for certain transactions to make transactions more secure. So in short, blockchain is a way to record information but makes it very difficult to alter or change that information. Blockchain started in 1991. It was kind of like a digital notary. It was a way to make sure that digital documents could be authenticated as the original. So essentially, every document, every digital document, any digital file, it has what's called a hash value. A hash value is a bunch of letters and numbers that acts like a digital fingerprint. So if I email you a document that has a digital fingerprint or hash value on it. If you open that document up, change that document in any way. I mean, the most minute way that the normal eye wouldn't notice. You just add, you go to the end of the paragraph with the period. Right behind the period, you just press the space bar once, save the document. When I see it as the same document, but if we look at the hash value, the digital fingerprint of the document that I sent versus the one you sent back, with all it is on there is an extra space, it's a different hash value, so we know that that document has been altered. So in 91, when these blockchain technology were created, it was kind of thought of as a digital stamp to ensure the authenticity of electronic documents, like a digital notary, or for purposes of court when you're bringing in computers and electronic files. In 2009, the founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, I believe is his name, Nakamoto. Yeah, Satoshi Nakamoto came up with the idea to use this blockchain technology as a way to track secure transaction with a digital currency. So let's take a look and talk a little bit about blockchain. And a blockchain is exactly what it is. It's a chain of blocks that tracks transaction. Each block has its own hash value or digital thumbprint so that you know that it's authenticated and it hasn't been manipulated. Now, let's talk about what is on a block that is within a blockchain. The first thing that's on the block is going to be data. Let's talk about Bitcoin because it's the easiest one and probably the most familiar one to talk about. With Bitcoin, the data that is on a block within a blockchain is transactions. I change 5 Bitcoin with another individual. That data is going to be on the block. The hash value is going to be on the block. That's the digital fingerprint, a bunch of numbers and letters so that you know that, hey, this block is the block that we was using. This is the hash value that's associated with the data that's on this block. And the third thing that's on the block is going to be the hash value of any previous block that was in the chain. We got 3 blocks in the blockchain: block one, block two, and block three. On each block is going to be data of a transaction. The next thing that's going to be on that block is the hash value or the digital thumbprint that identifies that particular block and makes it unique. And the third thing that's going to be on there is the previous hash value of the block that came before it in the chain. Now, this first block all the way to the left, this green block is unique. That first block is referred to as the Genesis block. That Genesis block is not going to have any previous hash values because it's the first block in the chain. But you can see that first block, the Genesis block, has its own hash value. Then when you look at block number two has its own hash value, but it also has the hash value of the previous block. And block number three has its own hash value, but it also has the previous hash value of block number two. Now that we look on the screen, we have 3 blocks, the same 3 blocks that we saw earlier in this blockchain. Let's talk about, well, what would happen or what makes it so secure? What would happen if someone actually tried to change information, data that was on a block within a blockchain? They tried to change something, alter a transaction. Well, remember, we have 3 blocks in this blockchain. The green block in the chain is the Genesis block. So it has no previous hash value, but it has its own independent hash value. Block number two has the hash of the previous block, block number one, and block number three has the hash mark of block number two. Let's say somebody went in and altered the data on block number two. They altered that data on block number two. So that original hash is crossed out. It no longer exists. It's created a brand new hash mark. Now, when you look in the chain, you see that brand new hash mark that was created. You got that red face with that little crazy, creepy clown image on the side of it. That indicates that someone changed information on that block. The hash mark changed because of that change. So now the hash mark is H62Y. Now remember, each block in the chain has its own hash mark plus the hash mark of the previous mark. Well, block number three would be invalidated because it doesn't match up with the previous hash mark. The previous hash mark was 6BQ1, but someone tried to change data in block number two. Because they tried to change data, the hash mark changed. And because there's a discrepancy between the hash mark in block number two now with that change and the hash mark that was originally recorded for block number two on block number three, now that invalidates any block that comes after it. To ensure the security of the transactions, hash values are used to make sure that the data in the transactions aren't changed or altered. So you can't put alter a transaction that occurred on block number two and keep the blockchain going. No, that hash value is incorrect. It will identify this mistake and the chain will not accept that block with that altered data or information on it. Now, there are computers out there that could go through and create thousands of hash values within seconds. So it actually is possible for someone to actually alter block number two, like on this image, change the hash value of block number two, block number three, block number four, any block in the chain to figure out all of the hash values that should be appropriate to actually make the blockchain accept this bogus block number two that had data or information that was altered. So, to avoid this type of mistake, the other security effort that's in place to kind of protect the integrity of cryptocurrency and the blockchain itself is called proof of work. Now, in a later video, I'll go into depth about proof of work versus proof of stake and really how individuals with money could actually control the entire cryptocurrency market if they so choose. But that's a whole nother video. Okay, remember we talked about one of the keys to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, things like that being so attractive is that it's decentralized. Everyone has access to the ledger, to the actual blockchain with all the data and information on it, as opposed to banks who they're the only ones who have the information of all the transactions. So, in this image right here, in order to protect the integrity of the blockchain along with hash values, they use a process called proof of work. To ensure the safety of the blockchain and the cryptocurrency, it uses a peer to peer network. So, you see these four individuals on the screen. These four individuals all have access to the blockchain. So, they can see the transactions, everything that has occurred within the blockchain. So this is really what makes it unique as opposed to being centralized with one individual on it. Everyone who's on the network has access to the blockchain and the information that's on that blockchain to a certain extent. Yeah, information, data is secure, but everyone has access to the particular blockchain in this peer to peer network. So, as you can see, we got block one, block two, block three, green, yellow, and red. All of these people are in the peer to peer network, so they all have access to the blockchain. So, what happens when a new block is added? You have a new transaction that occurred with regard to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So, it's going to create a new block with a new thumbprint with a new hash value that goes specifically for that block. Well, essentially, what happens is that block is distributed to everybody who's on the ledger, who has access to the ledger. Here you can see that the new block that was created, the new transaction that was occurred, anytime there's a new block, there's a new transaction on that block, there's a new fingerprint or hash value on that block, and it has the hash value of the previous block in the chain. So here, a new block was created. Everybody in the loop gets that new block. So everyone can equally see it. That's what makes it decentralized. So now you have the green block, the yellow block, the red block, and this, I don't know if that's purple or blue or whatever. We're going to call it the fuchsia block. So everyone gets a copy of the fuchsia block. Each user on the node gets that block added to their blockchain. So you can see that fuchsia block added to everyone's blockchain. So that fuchsia block, again, as always, has three things on it. It has the new transaction that created it. It has its own independent hash value or thumbprint, but it also has the hash value of the block that came before it, the red block. And so finally, in order for a new block to be added to the blockchain, the network has to come to a consensus. So let's think about all the steps we took to get here. We had the Genesis block, which is the actual first block in the blockchain. On that block, as with every block, it has data of a particular transaction that occurred. Each block has its own unique fingerprint or hash value, and each block has the hash value of the block that came before it in the chain. Now, because it's the first block, is the Genesis block, remember there won't be any previous hash value because it's the first block in the chain. Now, anytime a new block is added, and it's time consuming when a new block is added, it actually takes about 10 minutes for a new block to be added to a chain. So essentially, what happens is a new transaction occur. That transaction triggers a new block to be created and added to the chain. When that new block is added to the chain, it goes to everyone on the decentralized network. Everyone gets a copy of that block in the blockchain. That block, with all blocks, has the new transaction data, its own independent hash value or fingerprint, and the hash value of the block that came before it. Now, in order for this block to get accepted on the blockchain, it has to come to a consensus. So, all of the users that are on the particular network, essentially, what that means is that 51%, more than half of all the computers, the nodes that are on that network, have to agree that that new block that's being added is actually verified and confirmed. So you have 100 computers on the network, as an example. You have 100 computers on the network. A new Bitcoin transaction just occurred. A new block is being formed. Everybody, all 100 users on that network, is going to get a copy of that block to go on the blockchain. Now, all of their computers are going to independently verify the accuracy of that block and that that block has the accurate information of the block preceding it. So all the computers are going to do is due diligence to make sure that all of the blocks in the chain are in order. Once you have 51%, so once 51 nodes, 51 computers all agree that this block is valid, it has all the proper hash values of the previous blocks, it's added to the chain. Once it's added to the chain, that's called a consensus. So that's essentially how blockchain works. I won't believe I had to record this ending all over. I had some more stuff to say, but it's good I messed up because the video was too damn long anyway. That's essentially how blockchain works and why cryptocurrency is so secure. I don't know if y'all remember, maybe like, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago, Tesla was accepting Bitcoin. Then they came out and said we're not accepting it because the environmental thumbprint is just too bad and it wastes too much energy. That entire process of consensus is what make Bitcoin not environmentally friendly or safe. Think about it. 51% of the users, the nodes, the computers on the entire network have to verify and agree that a block is accepted to the blockchain. That's a lot of energy. So that's kind of why Tesla decided to stop accepting Bitcoin, because there are easier ways to do it. In another video, I'll talk a little bit about proof of work versus proof of stake. And like I said, how if folks with money really wanted to, they could really control the cryptocurrency market and make it really crazy. That's it. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all take care. Be blessed. Have a good one. Love y'all. Peace. And if you're still tuned in, check out the video on the screen. There's more videos related to financial education and following my family's journey to debt freedom, tackling these student loans. Check them out.